these are the best blades in the entire series,
Like,
but they don't.
Does he expect everyone to like know every single type of blade? He's the only one that there's. I can only recall one sword freak, and that's Shigi.
He just
Only
wants
she would.
he just wants more people trying to be the best swordsman.
I,
He just
he
wants an
wants.
entire swordsman guild trying to take down Zoro and take the mantle of number one swordsman. But he's just kind of irrelevant for Zoro, if there is such a place.
Random Sword Guild rose up to the Straw Hats. Zoro, you haven't officially signed up. Your ranking's at the bottom.
Could you
You're
sign
the
this
worst
petition,
swordsman.
please? Best swordsmanship guilds.
And since this is your newest entry, you're ranked at the bottom.
Zoro destroys the guild. Okay, I guess you're rank 1 now.
Rank 2. Come on.
Rank 2, come on. We all know Mihawk cares about the title that much. Join a small guild claiming to be the best swordsman thing.
I just don't get why he's so hung up on this little detail. It's just a fun little trivia fact, honestly, at this point.
He just wants that easy, clean, very what's it called? Very visible progression with Zoro. Gotta have the second swordsman, the third best swordsman, somewhere in the story for Zoro.
Because we've seen throughout that at least whenever Mihawk is battling, a few swordsmen go like, hey, I've at least wanted to clash blade with you once or twice. Be it the... what was it? Darn, what are they called? Okama folk that tried to take on Mihawk, then got cut down immediately. But at least Sword Vista put up a better fight.
But hey, we just need more people trying to fight Zoro for the top spots. That's all that matters.
But why would they go after him when Mihawk is there?
Exactly.
In the story, Mihawk is supposed to have the best sword, or one of the best swords in the series. He has a Supreme Blade. And he has the self-proclaimed best Black Blade in the story. So Mihawk has the best Black Blade and the highest quality sword. And he was clashing against Crocodile's hook arm in Marineford, without there being an inherent and immediate difference. The same Black Blade that couldn't cut the water Ichimonji back in Baratie when Zoro didn't have Haki, and there was no reason for Mihawk to not cut the sword. No one cared about the grade of Whitebeard's Bicento, and Raja's blade didn't play a factor at all into his legacy. And there are 8 other Black Blades which are a mystery in the story, with a vast majority of them likely going to be gifted out like candy at random to other characters because Oda has a quota to fill within the story.
Does he?
Not necessarily, and most not likely. Very unlikely.
So, wait, is he just going to be upset that a person has a great blade or black blade or something like that?
No, he's trying to say he's going to have to dish out the rest of the superior, I forget what's called. The rest of the superior blades to some nobodies. That's what he's saying. Because he has to really mention every other blade every other user of the superior blades sometime in the story.
I'm still trying to think, why does this matter?
It doesn't.
Me want sword, that's why.
It's just a story detail, man. How does this have to do anything with swordsmanship? Very little, really. Not a lot. It's just the quality of a blade. It can be... Yeah. Come on, man. Get a better point.
Since they don't matter, he knows that this is a missing plot point in the story, so he's just going to give characters the blades. Not good. And while we're at it, what is the deal with cursed swords? Curses in blades basically make them magical weapons, and we have never seen much at all of this concept in the story. There's never been somebody overcome with a curse, outside of Zoro saying that certain blades have personalities. That's it. Why does a One Piece movie show and go in more depth about cursed swords than Oda does? Did you know that Law's sword is cursed? Well, if you did, congratulations. But would you have guessed? No, because it just looks like an ordinary sword.
You see, with the movie, kind of glad I watched it that one time. It didn't do much more than just, curse someone. It pretty much destroys their personality. So calling it a cursed blade on the same level as the other two would be very disingenuous.
I really don't see why he's complaining about the concept of cursed blades, since that's like a thing in Japanese mythology and just fiction in general.
There isn't
Not too
really
many.
any.
Sorry. Go on.
There really isn't any except for the story, the swords. I forget his name. The swords dealer said about cursed blades. There hasn't really been anything else about cursed blades. Apart from
think
that.
of a reason that blades might be
Let's not
cursed.
also forget back in Lockdown, he was going like, "Hey, let's test it. The sword's cursed or my good luck. Which one won?"
I'm thinking that maybe Oda just wants to show if someone has a cursed sword, it means they're either lucky or skilled, because Law is pretty skilled and he has a cursed sword. And obviously he hasn't died yet, so...
Not to mention, he also technically has luck and the will of D backing him up, if you want to count that. That's if.
The concept of swordsmanship is so disjointed that it feels like it's trying to find the one piece and getting something good out of it. Where and when do the qualities of these blades come into play? Why do they matter? There's no reason for the audience to be invested into these concepts if the author of the story isn't. It could be that Oda...
Are you sure? Because you sound pretty invested in the sword grade and quality. Are you trying to say something? Question mark?
I guess he wants more info on them because Oda hasn't provided enough, therefore the story's bad because he can't get fully invested into the sword hobby.
Oda has held back literally everything that matters about black blades and swords in general until the last possible moment. And if Oda is in fact doing that, then you would have to ask, why? It's only natural to wonder. We have no way of knowing other than to guess. And the most immediate answer that you could think of would be related to how authors construct a story. The logic is pretty simple. The easiest way to explain is to think about how it's applied to characters. Important characters usually have the most information revealed about them when they appear in arcs where they are at the forefront of whatever is happening in the narrative. Think every Straw Hat arc. Think villains. It made the most sense to get a Dofi flashback in an arc where Dofi was supposed to be defeated. Same with the Yonko. We didn't know much about Big Mom before Whole Cake Island, Wano for Kaido, and so forth. But
I guess
it's a lot easier to do this with characters than it is concepts. Imagine if, after coming out of the time skip, with Luffy having all versions of Haki, he didn't use observation or armament until specific arcs where Oda decided that those would be useful in certain scenarios. Like, say, we start at Fishman Island, but...
I mean, Luffy kind of does that, Oda kind of does that with Gear 4. Luffy did not need Gear 4 until he had to fight Doflamingo, but he had it ever since the time skip.
and against Katakuri with the
I'm
flash.
talking about the first time he used it.
No, I'm talking about the observation Haki, since that against Katakuri is when observation Haki actually the second big importance in the arc. The first one was, of course, in Skypiea, but you see where I'm coming from, yeah?
Well, no, because Dritz is trying to say, it would be bad if Oda like had a flashback or something about cursed swords, because it'd be like if you had a flashback for Haki, but if the Straw Hats went through the new world, and they never needed Haki until they fought, well, let's say, Katakuri, and Luffy decides to then pull out observation, it wouldn't be bad because he didn't need it up until that point. So if cursed swords aren't important right now, and Oda wants to bring it up later at a time where they are important, then it'd be fine.
I mean, they still have to learn and train up their hockey. But apart from that, I see where you're coming from.
But Luffy didn't use hardening until he fought Katakuri. You'd probably have some questions, right? Like, why the hell wasn't Luffy using this before? It creates
But he didn't need
logical
it.
inconsistencies and is counterintuitive for showing the progression of
Maybe
someone's
trained in it,
strength
so-
if it only shows up when it's convenient or at the last moment. There's a fine line to be
Gear fourth. You literally just gear fourth.
Gear seconds and third, they have downsides, so we can't just be whipping it out all the time.
Well,
Gear also has downsides.
I say gear fourth because like for specifically the flashback thing, because he's trying to say, oh, a flashback would be bad, but that's literally what gear fourth was. Is he? If he doesn't mention gear fourth, then what is he on about?
Also, okay, I guess one of the earlier examples of hockey, apart from Skypiea, would be in Water 7, at the end of Water 7 with Garp. Because, well, that doesn't matter. I mean, when they ever brought up observation or hockey in general, this point just
The
doesn't
only-
make any sense.
The only time hockey got brought up like super early was Skypiea with observation.
And then you could argue that technically wasn't that, and Oda didn't fully plan that one yet.
Did Oda plan? No, he didn't. No.
drawn with characters as well. There is a cost to holding back basic information in the world, especially when that information is directly related to a character's dream, like how black blades are inherently connected to the overall lore of swordsmanship. Mihawk once said that without subtlety, a sword is but an iron bar. Yet with the way that people use swords in One Piece, you'd swear they were actually using an iron bar, because swordplay doesn't really seem to matter that much, it's not lethal, and it's all aesthetic. Swordsmanship
I guess.
Wait,
I mean,
what?
There's no direct comparison, but then again,
Is he?
but then
Is he
again,
saying that?
but then again, we saw Zoro try to cut steel, which implies something about swordsmanship. We saw Zoro try to make a projectile, which implies some swordsmanship skill. We saw him coat his sword in hockey, which is also a skill in both hockey and his swordsmanship, technically. Then again, well, I don't know about that one, but still, we can count that as hockey, I guess. Then his techniques.
Well, Mihawk did say if you caught it in arm in hockey, it has the likelihood of it either chipping or breaking decreases significantly.
I'm trying to say
Which is why
that
he was like-
people aren't like getting cut in half, and therefore swordsmanship doesn't matter.
Okay, but the point he's trying to say, there's no. Actually, I'll just play it back. I muted it.
swear they were actually using an iron bar, because swordplay doesn't really seem to matter that much, it's not lethal, and it's all aesthetic.
It's not
Swordsmanship
lethal.
is
It's all
so
aesthetic. Yeah. Is he? So yeah, it sounds like he's trying to say, oh, people aren't getting cut in half, so therefore swords don't matter. It sounds like he's trying to say, oh, people aren't getting cut
So we see a skill progression with Zoro.
He's also saying people. This is also, you gotta remember, like, this is One Piece. Oda does not like to kill very often.
He's just wrong
this-
at this point.
This is a non-point.